Alright, it's a beautiful day to get to work in the basement. So here we are, we got these beams. I need to clear a path for them first. So I'm going to start by measuring things out, lining up on top where I want it to land, and on bottom where I want those to land. Make sure that's level. Get this this flex duct up in a bay out of the way to decide what bay to put it in. I really want to get it in this bay, so I may have to take it off and run it on through there. So yeah, projects. Alright, so the vent was just barely hanging on by one nail, so I went ahead and pulled that out. And there it is. Reroute it. I'm going to actually take the boot off and reseat it because it needs to be done, one nail. And this also, Dubs, is a really quick way to clean out this section of ductwork. Anybody want a spoon? Alright, I took off this boot and it is blown out. I could try and patch it together with speed tape, but I'm just not into that. I'm going to replace it, so put it on the list next time I go to the store. For now, I'm just going to run this up and seal off the hole in the floor, because that's what we're going to do for now until we go to the store next. I'll take that strap, thank you very much. But I am going to use screws. Alright, after much planning and figuring out how to get around the pipes, I decided I'm going 5.5 feet. 5.5 feet from the pillar. 5 feet, 6 inches. Mark. So I didn't get to run exactly in the bay that I wanted to because this wasn't actually long enough. So I ran it in the bay over just for the length purposes. This strap did work pretty well. It's not what I'm used to. I looked for a nylon strap and couldn't find it. I don't think I brought it with me, so we're reusing what's here. Test fit. Right there to our boot. Next I gotta move this light and that light. So in order to do that, I have to turn off the lights. So I'm gonna set up a temporary light. I did have a little trouble with my extension cord at first. I do also find that a lot of people are afraid to work with electrical or just move a light like this. And you know, as long as the power's off and you check it with your little tester, you're good. I still don't touch the wires necessarily unless I have to, but the only one you really have to be concerned about is typically the black wire. That's the quote-unquote hot wire. Occasionally, if you have something else, what they call dumping power to neutral, then you might get a little shock off the neutral, but typically won't kill you, especially if you only hit one hand instead of two. So putting this back on, it's pretty straightforward. You want to staple every 2 feet ish. 24 inches ish. If you're on a 16-inch setter, you can do it with 32. And then run it into the box, and it's really straightforward. The wire with no insulation inside, that's the ground. You want to twist them together first. Some of these porcelains have a ground screw. You want to hook that up if it does. Other than that, black to black, white to white, and you're good to go. And then once you got all the wires hooked up, you just line it up. Some of these you have to punch the holes out. Some of the holes aren't already punched, like if you're buying it new. These ones are used, so all the holes are punched. And you see the holes there for the screws to go through, and then they'll actually line up with the screw holes on the box, and zip, zip, you're done. Now that I got the path clear, right through there, is my path. Now I can make a prop for one side. I'll use the jack for the other side, and I'm going to use the brackets to attach these to the joists. I also have to cut it to length, so measuring things out, get that going. Again with this laser measure, gotta love it. Alright, a little workout on the exhaust port here. This old Delta was given to me and the exhaust port wouldn't stay in, a little tape. I had to adapt down to my vacuum hose line. I used a coupler, PVC coupler, and some sealant to get in there, and it operates decently. I'm going to see how this works. Yeah, when we say decent, that means it's still holding in there. But saw worked great. Now that I got my support cut, I can go ahead and measure out and cut one of the first beams. 12-foot board, that's not going to work. What if it's this way? I do not want to land on this one. I want to land on this one. Put my seam, if I can. That'll work in that direction. I can go mark. Twice. 11 feet 3 inches. My first cut. 11 3 and 9/16. 11 3 and 9/16. Make sure we're straight. Well, I only have 2.5 inches depth, so I have to cut these sideways. They're a 4x6. So 2 passes on the short side should cut it off. This is old school saws like kick sawdust. I'll tell you, this pressure treated wood sure doesn't like to cut. Everything else in here is sped up 4 times. Those cuts are actually sped up 8 times, just to not bore you too much. It really takes a little while to work through this pressure treated wood, but once it's done, and it's the right stuff. It's an expensive piece of wood, so I want to make sure it's good. That's right, measure twice. This double cutting is not ideal, but as long as you got the saw set to a solid 90, works out pretty well, and you still get a pretty clean cut. I'm going to set up this here floor jack. I'm going to set it up to be the same length as the support board I cut earlier. So, the unboxing begins. They got some instructions on the side of the box. In case you need them. Right there. See, can you see that? Yeah, okay. These things are pretty straightforward. Plates are identical. This puppy. Just like so. This up this way. This goes at the top. Opposite hole. So. Bolts. Too long. Yeah, go for this. That's what we're going for. I'll turn you a little bit. Alright, let's put it together. Alright, the idea here is to take this board that I just cut. I'm going to set it on that 2x4 on one end and then put it on the jack on the other end. Hopefully I can get this up by myself this way. We're going to see. Here goes nothing. Tell you, these things are not light, but still manageable by one person with a little clever ingenuity. And this is, as they say, sometimes you gotta use your head, huh? Yeah, gotta balance it on my head in order to fit all this stuff together, but once it's on the jack, it actually stayed pretty well. is. Now I can line it up, put it to the ceiling, use my brackets here to hang it. I'm using the center beam in the house and measuring over to it to line this up, just to kind of keep it all in line. Whatever, there's no square or straight in this house, so just do our best to keep things all in a line with each other. And always something in my way, but that's just the story of my life. Now that I got it in place, I'm going to put some more tension on it so it'll stay in place. I'm not actually lifting anything yet, I'm just putting a little tension on it so it'll stay in place. And we'll fine tune it. So then we have to modify the shrinking straps. What is wrong with this world? It's not ideal, but I have modified the bracket, a little hammering. Hammer the corner flat, and then use the cutoff piece I have to shape it to this board. Alright, we're back. I lost a little camera battery there, but while you were gone, I went ahead and measured and cut the second board. And I have a pipe here that won't get out of my way, so I went ahead and notched this out for the pipe. I just measured it out. I already had the skill saw out, so I set my depth and just made multiple passes. Pretty easy. And I've got one more bracket to shape, so let's get that done. So I looked at the hardware store later and I could not find anything that was dimensioned for this pressure treated wood. So you all know the pressure treated wood is dimension different than standard wood. Never will understand that, but I just had to make it work. Alright, I gotta determine where to put the block at the bottom. I looked everywhere for my plumb bob, couldn't find it, so I'm gonna have to make do with this. Center of the board, floor, and then that's how I'm going to mark my center. Measure this and find the center. 10.5. View. Let's find a quarter. That's where our block goes. Now I need a very precise measurement from the block to the beam. Our piece. And we'll double check our measurement. Right to the outside. That line, right? Nice and tight. Looking good. We're at 0. Let's get my fall block. Not sure the saw is going to go through the whole thing, but. So this saw, the motor kind of hangs off the back, so it does prevent it from cutting all the way through a 4x4 if the 4x4 is hanging all the way through. So it did take multiple cuts on this, but that's okay. It looked good once I was done. Here we are with our pole. We're going to install it now. It is all cut to length, sitting on the. On the base there. I'm going to use this liquid nails here because I have it, and I'm going to glue that to the floor in the right place while I drive that in. I have a plan. So the plan did work. It wasn't as easy as I hoped because this block is very difficult to move on the concrete, but it worked out. I'm leveling it up to make sure you really want these level so that the load is vertically stacked. So making sure it's level in both directions, and just like that, it'll be in place. Picked up these plates, so I'm going to go ahead and put them on here to attach these together. So none of these plates and brackets are actually structural. They're just really here in case we have an earthquake in Indiana, which is unlikely. But they're here anyways. Now I'm gonna set the weight down on it. That's a wrap for the first one. I'm gonna move on to the next one. Coming down to this end, marking out center where the two beams will meet once this pendulum stops swinging, at least. This does work out surprisingly well. So again, I'm cutting and I'm using the 4x6 for this center beam so that it'll support two boards. And we'll get it up here, we'll make a little test fit. And then once I see that it's going to fit, I'm actually going to glue this one into the base. I had to trim a little off the bottom there, you may be able to see that. And I actually filled the hole with a piece of 4x4, so I just kind of glued it all together. And then I'm going to mark center so I can make sure I center this up. All right, I got these T-brackets to mount these ones on. So, center on there. Now I can put the next board in. Basically the same process as the last one. Propping it up on one side, and what you can't see is me setting it on the jack. And then a little tap tap here and there to get it in alignment. A little tap tap. I did have trouble closing that gap up at first. Well, this tool's gonna come in handy. I gotta use it to seat this. This is a tool I got for flooring. So I got that jacked up as much as it needs actually already. And while all this settles, I went ahead and oiled this. I'm gonna use this steel brush and clean out this threads while I'm waiting. Had to get out the pipe wrench, but I got this old floor jack moving and I lowered it one turn. One turn a day. Come back tomorrow. So it's been a little frustrating lately. I've been feeling like I haven't been getting much done because I've been working on a lot of trim and things, but I finally got to the point where I moved on to the basement and am leveling the floor, and it feels really good. It's good to have some winds. I am slowly taking the center bubble out of the floor, not too quickly, it requires a lot of patience, but I am super close. I was probably 3/4 of an inch high, and now I'm probably 1/4 of an inch high, so there's probably another day or two of movement, and this floor is way leveler than it used to be and much more solid, and so I'm really happy that that project's working out. And yeah, you'll see lots of that down in the basement as we go. So voila, here's the finished product, and it is all put together. I did have to take the table saw and cut a wedge up at the top. I had to jack this up a little later and get it all as perfect as I can get it. But I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for watching. Feel free to give a like and a share, and we'll have another episode out next week.